My name is Sigmund Freud.
Sigmund Freud, a physiologist, a medical doctor, a psychologist, and the founder of psychoanalysis. He is generally recognized as being one of the most influential and authoritative thinkers of the 20th century. His famous collaboration with Joseph Breuer in 1892 had marked the beginnings of psychoanalysis. They had elaborated on the theory that the mind is a complex energy system. He expressed to refine the concepts of the unconscious, of infantile sexuality, of repression, and proposed an account of the mind structure, all part of the understanding of the human psychological development and the treating of mental conditions. As he pursued his medical researches, he had concluded that the most fascinating mysteries lay hidden in the complex operations of the human mind. One of the things that Freud and Breuer discovered was that the symptoms of hysterical patients had derived from trauma in early life. The patient was usually not even consciously aware of these drives and experiences. He concluded that the unconscious mind plays a major role in shaping the behavior of an individual. He also concluded that to block painful trauma of early life, people develop things that he called defense mechanisms. If the patient used too much of their energy to produce them, they could develop diseases, one of which he called neurosis. Breuer and Freud had created a paper called On the Psychical Mechanism of Hysterical Phenomena, which demonstrated the use of hypnosis for treatment of hysteria. The cathartic method was the name of the treatment, and it consisted of the patient recalling and reproducing the forgotten memories while under hypnosis. The medical profession looked down upon the paper. Moreover, Breuer and Freud separated because of Freud's growing conviction that the undefined energy causing conversion was sexual in nature. After they separated, Freud rejected the idea of hypnosis, devised his theory of the unconscious mind, and began using the term psychoanalysis in 1896. Freud's theory of the unconscious mind is exceedingly deterministic, in other words, relating to the belief that everything, including every human act, is caused by something, and that there is no real free will. Freud was possibly the first thinker to apply deterministic principles to the mind and say that the human behaviors is only explainable by usually hidden processes or states that determine it. His theory suggests that freedom of free will is nothing more than an illusion, and that the hidden mental processes, but which we are unaware of the fact that we have absolutely no control, ultimately govern us. Freud considered the mind structurally similar to an iceberg, most of it lying below the surface, exerting a dynamic and determining influence upon the conscious mind. Freud also came to see personality as having three separate aspects: id, ego, and the superego. All three needed to be well balanced to have a good mental health. The id contains basic needs and feelings, and is essentially the pleasure principle. The ego realizes that you cannot always get what you want, and is basically the reality principle. Moreover, the superego is the moral part of the mind, and usually strives for perfection, though the so-called perfection is typically far from reality. He also grouped the instincts into two broad categories: eros, the life instinct, which covered all of the self-preserving instincts, and then thanatos, the death instinct, for all hostility and cruelty. Freud put major stress on the concept of sexual drives, and called them the centrality of human life, actions, and behavior, even arguing that these drives could be found in children at birth. Nevertheless, Freud has successfully redefined the term sexuality here to make it cover any form of pleasure which is or can be derived from the body, thus making the theory of infantile sexuality state that the human being is motivated from birth by the craving to obtain bodily pleasure. Yet at best, Freud considered civilized living as a compromise between wishes and repression. Freud's aim was not only to create a sweeping theory of mental functioning and malfunctioning, but also to devise the rules of psychoanalytic treatment. However, the usefulness of analysis is still a matter of controversy.
Sigmund Freud is one of the most revered and controversial people of the 20th century. His work transcended the boundaries of science, bringing psychology into the mainstream. Terms such as superego, Oedipal complex, sibling rivalry, and Freudian slips all have become part of our culture. just as much as they are part of psychoanalysis.
The Freudian theory had an immense impact. Although his theories were considered shocking when they were created, and they still continue to create much controversy, but no one argues against his great influence. His theories have influenced many fields as varied as anthropology, education, art, and literary criticism, his largest impact being in psychiatry and psychology. He was one of the world's most influential thinkers, and showed the crucial importance of unconscious thinking to all human thought and activity. His theories on sexual development had led to debates on how to treat sexual matters and issues. The stress he had put on the importance of childhood helped teach the value of giving children an emotionally nourishing environment. Freud's theories even influenced surrealism in art and literature. Similar to psychoanalysis, surrealistic painting and writing explores the inner depths of unconscious mind, giving artists and writers subject matter. Since the 1970s, Freud's theories were questioned and attacked, for example, by feminists. In some respects, he seemed to believe that women were inferior to men, had weaker superegos, and were driven by envy. Although we have now moved far beyond Freud in learning about the human brain and behavior, neurological studies reveal the fact that there is such thing as the unconscious mind, where forgotten memories are stored away in the brain. Freud laid the foundations for today's awareness of the destructive effects of child abuse, both sexual and violent, and of child neglect, and changed the way we thought about children, trauma, human development, and personality in general. Whether we choose to agree with Freud or not, we indefinitely owe him a debt of gratitude for setting us on the course of learning about mental health.